and it's that tragic story in Soweto that leads our stories today. And we're catching up now with our reporter, Ofentse Setimo, who was there to tell us what he saw and give us a sense of what the mood was like during the course of the day. Ofentse, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Give us a sense of the mood at Nomzamo Informal Settlement today.
Thank you very much, Peter, and a good evening to your viewers as well. The mood was actually very somber. You know, when we arrived there, the police were just starting to cordon off the tavern where this unfortunate incident actually transpired. And shortly after we arrived there, some of the family members started arriving as well after they had been informed of the unfortunate incident that happened. And you could hear the wailing, you know, the crying, and you know the shatteredness of the family after, you know, discovering the bodies of their loved ones there. You know, so the mood was actually very somber, and you know things changed very fast after Operation Dudula members actually came there to send messages of condolences to the grieving families. And shortly afterwards, the EFF also arrived, and we saw tensions and emotions run high to a point where, you know, people started taking out nopkiris. We saw screwdrivers, you know, to a point where the police had to intervene to ensure that, you know, the people from two camps do not actually injure each other. And basically the point of contention was the fact that Operation Dudula was accusing the EFF of campaigning while people are actually grieving during a time when people are actually grieving their loved ones. But at the same time, the EFF was arguing that they are a community organization and they are entitled to come and send messages of condolences whenever these situations actually transpire. In fact, it went as far as Operation Dudula members saying that, you know, some of these incidents are actually caused by foreign nationals, the same foreign nationals which the EFF is encouraging to come and make South Africa their home. So there was that clash of philosophy between the two organizations, and the police had to divert their attention from securing that crime scene to a point where now they have to quell violence that was about to erupt between the two camps. So the mood started being somber to a point where there was anger and people just wanted to injure each other based on their policies, you know, in terms of how to deal with immigration and the like. So the situation turned out to be very ugly. And in fact, those that were observing were even saying that, you know, this paints a very bad picture because there are families that are grieving who are supposed to be getting the support at the present moment. But now people are now pushing their own agenda. Yes, that's what transpired so far.
Was the EFF actually making any political statements, or was it just their presence that was seen as being of a campaigning nature?
I believe that them being clad in the EFF regalia, the red berets and the red jacket that they were wearing, that sort of exacerbated matters. As you know, that the Operation Dudula and the EFF have a long history of tensions between the two, based on the fact that Operation Dudula is trying to fight illegal immigrants, while at the same time the EFF is saying Africa needs to unite, and Africans in particular need to become one so that they can deal with the socio-economic challenges that we are facing. So I believe it was that particular issue of them being clad in EFF. In fact, some of the guys were even saying that members of the ANC were also there, but because it's not about politics, they were not clad in ANC colors because they were there as concerned members of the community who just wanted to show empathy to those that had lost their loved ones. And it was not about to be a grandstanding where now you are seen to be doing good at the expense of others. So the community was actually agitated by the fact that the EFF members were actually clad in EFF colors, and that caused a lot of tensions, which actually almost became violent.
How are the police investigations proceedings? You said that at some point they were struggling to secure the scene because they were waylaid with the scuffle. Have they said anything in terms of progress?
Well, so far, they've just mentioned the fact that, you know, judging by the cartridges that they picked up at the scene, they were saying that it could be that 2 people or more were actually involved in the firing of the patrons that were at that particular tavern after midnight last night. They were saying there were just too many cartridges, and it showed that there were different guns that were actually used. There were high caliber guns, and there was also a 9mm pistol that was also used. But because the area has been without electricity for quite some time, in fact, they were saying it has been without electricity for about 4 years. They were saying that visibility was very poor at the time of the incident. In fact, the tavern was actually using a generator as there wasn't sufficient light at the time. So even the patrons that survived the shooting, who were actually inside the tavern itself, they could not identify any of the suspects. So as things stand currently, none of the suspects have been arrested. There isn't any positive identity that we know of. Maybe the police have some clues that they are following, but up until we left the area around 7 p.m., there wasn't any information regarding the suspect or their identity or anything like that. So they actually don't know who are the suspects who were involved. What we know is that midnight, around 12:30, the Quantum arrived there, and the people got off, and then they started shooting indiscriminately. And at the moment, the motive of what transpired is the subject of investigation by the police themselves.
All right, the police investigating a motive and probably not giving too much away, but that doesn't stop the public and the locals speculating. What do they think happened? Hello, Ofentse, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just saying that the police...
If you can just repeat the question, Papita?
Yeah, I was just saying the police are investigating and they're probably keeping their cards close to their chest. But sometimes the locals have a sense of knowing things. And I just wonder if there's been any speculation of what might have been behind this shooting.
Well, what they are saying is that there are gangs actually terrorizing the community. In fact, they are saying crime is very rife in that particular area, and it's being exacerbated by the fact that there are no lights, so the criminal elements are actually taking advantage of the fact that it's so dark, and it's easy for them to commit these crimes. But what the community actually told us is that, there are gangs that are comprising of Lesotho nationals who are actually targeting cables that have been left by the municipality. They take those copper cables and they sell them. So they were saying that there has been an element of tribalism between the Lesotho nationals and the residents of KwaNomzamo, who are Xhosa nationals. So they were saying that there could be a tension that was actually erupted between those two nationals that could have eventually led to this incident happening. But this is pure speculation at the moment, as we know that the police were saying that the motive is still a subject of investigation. But on the ground, we get a sense that, people are actually frustrated by what they call gangs carrying high caliber firearms. As you can remember what happened in Chicken Farm, where the community of Pinville actually approached the residents of Chicken Farm saying that they are the ones that are stealing the cables, and they are the result. It's because they were actually saying that they are the ones causing a lot of blackouts in Pinville. And when they approached there were some high caliber firearms that were actually used to shoot at the community members, of which Komotsodiale actually lost his life. So some of the community members were actually likening that situation that happened in Chicken Farm to what actually transpired here, saying that the common element is these high caliber firearms, of which they don't know where they are coming from. They also put into question the country's intelligence to say that some of these things are supposed to have been picked up so that they can mitigate against the worst impact, of which we saw 15 people actually lose their lives. Among them, there could have been breadwinners, and it was quite a sad situation. But we know that the police minister is actually going to visit the area tomorrow, and the residents are saying that, they will raise a myriad of issues that they have been grappling with, saying that, even the local police station is so poorly resourced that it's not able to deal with the community of Orlando as a whole.
Ofentse, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for keeping on top of that story for us. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.